Hello, and welcome to Kopites Calling with Dave and Nik. Well, today was a very emotional day for Liverpool Football Club, the fans, Jurgen Klopp, anybody associated with the team. This was the day we were not looking forward to. Um, it did actually happen as much as we were hoping it would not happen.
Is there still
Um,
time?
we could yeah, we can now officially say that Jurgen Klopp is the former manager of Liverpool Football Club. Um, we at Kopites Calling want to really kind of spend a lot of time on talking about Jurgen today and what he has done for this club. Um, but but there was actually a game that was played, and we do need to talk about what happened on the pitch today. Liverpool was playing the Wolverhampton Wolves, actually the Wolverhampton Wanderers, nicknamed the Wolves. Um, they were playing them today, and there was a match. So we do have to discuss this game. Um, Nik, you want to take us through the lineups and kind of give us an idea of what was happening there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, starting from the back, I mean, Allison in goal with a back four of Kwanzaa, Van Dijk, Trent, and Robbo. Midfield three was Endo, McAllister, and Harvey, with a front three of Mo, Diaz, and Gagpo.
Again, we've touched on this a number of times. The preferred center back pairing appears to be, at least with Jurgen Klopp, appears to be Virgil and Kwanzaa,
Yeah,
and we've seen it. Um,
it's been the case, and I think that it's been warranted. I mean, we've gone into it in depth on Kopites Calling. Whether this remains the case in the summer, leading into kickoff in August, who knows?
it was the only change from the game that we played on Monday was Andy Robertson was back in for Gomez. It was of note to see that Jota was back on the bench. Um, for me, when you looked at this, Nik, the sad part to me was when they kind of showed them in the stands, Thiago and Matip. And those two guys, it would have been interesting to see what Thiago would have done for this club had it not been for the injuries. I mean, injuries just took him out. I mean, it
It,
was
Injuries aside, I mean, I absolutely agree with you, Dave, on that point. I mean, injuries aside, though, I think when we look back at the games he was available, and he did play a huge part in that 21-22 season, as well as the COVID season. He was very important towards the end of the season and securing that top four finish that season. I think when we look back, I mean, we did at one point have one of the most technically gifted players in world football, and that was Thiago Alcantara. I mean, guy was just a joy to watch whenever he was on his game. It's just unfortunate because his body couldn't keep up with him.
right.
It's just the sad part of that. I don't think he thinks. I don't think he believes that his stint at Liverpool was what he thought it was going to be. I don't think us as fans believe it either. But when we look back, though, we have to realize that he was a servant of Liverpool. He loved the club when he was with us. But it does make you think of what could have been with him. It really does, because he could turn it up a notch, and he was just smarter than everyone else in the field.
Well, he had the ability to be a dominant force when he was on the field. I mean, he was the guy that everything went through, and he was just ahead of everybody else. It seemed
Yeah,
like you were saying. Um, the other person that my heart just goes out to is Joel Matip. I mean, again, um, you used the term servant of the club. Again, this guy, I mean, just injuries. Just, at one point, we were talking about Matip, and you had made the comment that it appears that the guy's made of glass. I mean, when he played, he was as good as anybody. But the injuries, he could not overcome the injuries.
Yeah, I mean, Matip was a funny case because we got it for free. I mean, we got
Yeah,
it's just insane when you think about some of the free transfers that we've gotten under Klopp. We got Matip for free, and there were games where obviously if you're a center forward, I'm thinking about City in particular. Like if you're a Holland, you're not targeting Van Dijk to play against. You're targeting Matip in some of those games, and Matip still dealt with it and then some. It's the
right.
guy was. True professional again. He always played with a smile on his face. He had this sense of humor that you can tell that all the players loved to have him in the dressing room. I mean, you can see the clips that you see on the practice field during the weeks. I mean, he just enjoyed playing football for Liverpool. And I think him and Van Dijk had a great connection off the field as well as friends. I mean, he had a contagious smile, and he was a guy that unfortunately, yeah, injuries did kind of hurt him, but I think he has a future, whether that's Europe or MLS. Who knows? But I really Matip was another just a guy that when he was called upon, because there was this stint where it was Gomez and Van Dijk. When he was called upon, he was always ready to answer.
You know, I will never forget, Nick. We had talked about it, laughed about it, the insane runs that that guy would make.
Yeah,
He looked so gangly coming up the pitch and getting into the box, all arms and legs just flying all over the place. And the guy would just make these crazy runs, and it was so fun to see this guy when he was doing that.
it was exactly that. I mean, it was funny because a guy that looks like that should have no business making a run like that, and he made them consistently.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, anyway, those two guys, their time with Liverpool is over, and the game is for me. It was a game that I really really felt that Liverpool was going to do exactly what they did in this game, and I really felt like they were going to put on a show, and I really thought that they did. Um, I thought that early in the game, Nick, I don't know if you're with me on this, but we were playing some fantastic football. I mean, just the channels that were opening, the passes that were being made, the it was like they had a extra sense and they were just seeing where each other were going. It was really nice football.
It was liquid football that we've been playing under Klopp for 9 years. I mean, it was refreshing to see again in this final game. I mean, I think you could have put you know the strongest Real Madrid team that you could think of on the field, but it's in Klopp's last season. You knew the players were going to turn up. I mean, it was always going to be in their back of their minds that they wanted to send him off in fashion as well. And we saw that in the way they played.
They were not going to be denied today. I really think that they were just not going to. They weren't going to let this day slip away from them. And you know, the unfortunately though, Nick, it's the scourge of Liverpool right now. As well as we were playing, we could not get that opening goal. We struggle in that end. I mean, we can't put that ball in the net. Um, we got a little bit of help. Um, I thought this was one of the most cynical challenges I've seen in a while on Alexis McAllister in the 26th minute, where, I mean, the more you saw it on instant replay, the worse it looked. That guy was so high on his ankle, initially given as a yellow. VAR actually worked for us in this situation because they went up and looked at this thing and it was changed to red. And I think it probably was it definitely was straight red for me.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's funny because you think about how many times this season alone VAR has looked at that or challenges like that and haven't given it a red card. So it's just it's the conundrum that is VAR that we talk about every episode. It feels like on Kopites Calling, where everything looks worse in slow mo, obviously, but there was only one end of that challenge, and that was Semedo stomping McAllister.
Absolutely.
That wasn't a 50-50 duel by any
No,
means.
no. It
So
was
it was the right,
cynical.
yeah, it was the right call.
It really was. We could go down a rabbit hole. I've seen some things this week where, they had all the decisions and things that haven't gone Liverpool's way this year, and what the result was and points dropped and all this kind of stuff. Now, we're Liverpool fans, obviously. We're going to see it from that lens, and we're going to be going, this is Liverpool had their opportunities even with these things, and we the games that killed us were Crystal Palace and a couple other games, that
Everton,
kind of took, yeah, that took us out. But there were a number of games where um, you don't know. We've talked about it at length on Kopites Calling. What are they looking at? I mean, the one that stands out to me, I don't know, chest in the boot the boot in the chest of McAllister. How is that not even given? Anyway, um, this was rightfully booked as a red card.
yeah.
Um, so Wolves go down a man. Their whole thing, they were hanging on in this game, just looking for a counter. They were parking the bus. Um, Harvey Elliott in the 33rd minute had a tremendous, tremendous cross, and Alexis McAllister had a just wonderful header, and that was the opening score. It's 1-0. What did you see on that goal, Nik?
Yeah, I mean, Harvey just continuing his fine form that he's been in towards the end of the season. He was as lively as the whole team was. Beautiful ball in. I mean, and that's not an easy ball for McAllister, being a smaller player, to get up and generate some power off of it. Because while it was a great ball from Harvey, there was still a lot to do from the finish perspective. It was a little bit of a floated ball as opposed to a ball with power. So McAllister did very well generating the power off the header. But Harvey, again, I mean, very impressed with him just in general. So I mean, he's finishing. He's another one of the players, excuse me, that is finishing the season very strong.
Absolutely. It was. I mean, he had to snap that header. It was nice. I mean, he had to put some effort in. You're right. That header was he had to generate that. So that was a wonderful, wonderful play from McAllister. Um, we move on and we get to the 40th minute, and who scores the second goal? Jarrell Kwanzaa. I mean, talk to me about this. Talk to me about this play, because I saw it. I don't know how it's not given. Everything I was looking at was not showing it as an assist for Mo. How is that not an assist for Mo?
Yeah, I don't. I think maybe it was because of the deflections of the Wolves. I don't know. It is bizarre that they wouldn't give it, because Mo was essentially the last attacking player to touch the ball.
Right.
Um, so you would chalk that up as an assist. But I mean, I think we made the joke about this when Kwanzaa scored against Villa. Joe Gomez is probably biting his teeth even more now. I mean, Gerald Kwanzaa has 2 goals, right? I mean, Gomez doesn't have a single goal in his senior career.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think it was funny, if had Liverpool won a penalty today and Gomez is on the field, I'm almost certain they would have given it to him in Klopp's last game. Klopp would have loved to see Gomez get his
Stick
first
him
goal
in
under
there.
him. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, great. I mean, just awkward goal, disgusting, scrappy goal, but they all count, And I think Kwanzaa, again, right place, right time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought for a minute they might give it as an own goal.
Yeah,
I
me too.
wasn't sure how that was going to actually play out, but it stood as a goal for Jarrell Kwanzaa. So we'll take it. Half ends. Just a quick little stat line. Liverpool had 71% of the possession. Wolves had 29. 20 shots total for us, 2 for them. We had 9 shots on target. They had 1. 7 corners for us, 2 for them. Their keeper made 6 saves. Allison made 1. The player of the first half for you was who?
It's going to be Harvey for me.
Okay.
I think that it was either. It's funny. I mean, Endo looked really good as well. Kwanzaa. I mean, you could really name a few players, but Harvey looked. He was on it again from the start. Got the assist. He just looks. He just looks like to be a kid that's finding the joy in his game at Liverpool. Hopefully, he can carry on into next season under Arne Slot.
My player of the first half was Andy Robertson.
Yeah, Andy was
I
again just being his typical Andy.
I thought he was a menace on the left side. I don't think the Wolves had an answer. Pardon me. Um, he was everything that he was picking out was right. I just thought he was really, really, really strong in the first half. So it's 2-0 at half. We get into the second half. 50th minute, Diaz hits the crossbar, comes down, does not go in. They had a cut to Jurgen. I don't know if you saw it, and Jurgen was his reaction was just laughing. I mean, it was like how'd that not go in kind of thing, you know? It
Yeah,
was
it's been
really
the tale of Diaz. I mean, right, his finishing still needs some work.
absolutely, absolutely. So anyway, the game is
It,
it's
we were never out of control of the game. It's funny because we only won 2-0, and it was the 2 goals in the first half. But with Wolves being down a man, I think you can agree, Dave, that like in the second half they never really created much, and we never really looked to get out of second gear. It was very much a game where, I mean, yeah, we had the chances for the third goal, but I'm sure you'll get into some of those chances. But I mean, it was very much like, okay, this is a status quo 2-0 win. Let's get out of here.
well, I mean, they really had no they once they went down a player and went down 2-0, they had no way back in the game.
Yeah,
They they had no way back in. If they went into a full attack mode, we would have just picked them. I mean, it could have gotten really ugly for Wolves, and so they just didn't have any way back in. But there were a couple missed chances, and Mo had one that he just had a heavy touch. The touch just got really heavy for him at the very end,
I don't know
and
why he did that with his right foot. He should have. I don't know
yeah,
why. It was. Normally, how many times have we seen Mo come onto that ball with his left foot and place it into the far post? You could tell how much he wanted to score in Klopp's last game as well. I mean, it was very sad he didn't get that goal, but he was begging for that.
right. I was wondering all the way through what the sub pattern was going to be. I kept telling, we had we watched the game. We are back in the Virginia area. We watched the game with the DC supporters of Liverpool, and we were kind of talking about what the sub pattern was going to be. He's got 5 subs to make. What's he going to do? Who's going to show up on his last game? He put in Gravenberg, Darwin, and Bradley. Um, I I was actually fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to see Bradley back in as well. He could have made any. I mean, who cares, right? It's his last game. He can do whatever he wants. So, I mean, we would have. I think
Absolutely.
we would have agreed if he, told Jaden Dance to go suit up again, or whatever.
Right.
He could
Right.
have. He could have subbed on Adrian, and I would have been like, oh, interesting, but okay. So I think we
Yeah.
were just kind of letting Klopp, do what he wants to do in his last game.
I was thinking we might see Jota. I really was. I was thinking we might get Jota out there for a little while. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. The last 2 subs were Curtis Jones and Dominic Soboslai. Totally fine with that as well.
You know
The
what? Sorry, you know what he's probably thinking, and I didn't even think about this, but Jota has to prepare for the Euros as well. So it's like it's one of those things where I think Klopp maybe was being courteous to that
Giving him more time.
exactly, giving him more time as opposed to re-aggravating an injury before an important tournament with his country.
Absolutely. The only threat that they actually have is in the 85th minute, and Allison just does what Allison does, and he just made a great save. He made a save that was, I really at 2-0, the one thing I was really wanting to see was a clean sheet, and Allison doing Allison things and making that save preserved the clean sheet. And it was the only thing really of note beyond that was Jurgen was struggling at the 92nd minute. There was 4 minutes of added time onto the game, and he was starting to struggle. You could see it. He was really having a hard time. They were the faithful at Anfield they were just absolutely serenading him with, we're so glad Jurgen is a Red, and it was nonstop, and he was struggling, and it was
Yeah,
he not only was he struggling, I was struggling.
I think
I
everyone.
just
I think whenever you're into stoppage time, I think you're realizing, oh shit, this is the last time we'll see this.
yes,
And it was coming fast. I mean, that
Yes,
was the quickest minutes of stoppage time I've ever heard. It's funny. Sometimes
absolutely.
like stoppage time goes by really slow when you need it to go fast, and today it was in an instant.
Absolutely. Game ends. Liverpool wins. The final stats: 68% of the possession to Liverpool, 32 to the Wolves. Interesting. I think we had our. I thought that anyway. Total shots. I think we had 36 total shots. They had four. We had 14 shots on target. They had three. We had 10 corners. They had two. Their keeper made 11 saves. Now think about that, 11 saves. Our Allison made two. Player of the match for you, Nik, is who?
It's Kwanzaa for me. Again, this kid, geez. I mean, it's like a diamond. It really is a diamond in the rough player that we have here. I mean, just didn't put a foot wrong. You could have said, honestly, it's hard to say the man of the match, but I mean, he again just stuck out to me because in the first half he made crucial stops when he needed to. Second half, he just has this confidence of him being so young. Honestly, I could have said Endo as well. Endo was very much back on his game, but I'm going Kwanzaa.
I'm right there with you. Second time in two games that I think we both had the same man of the match. I think Kwanzaa was the guy again today. Uh, Primarily because he scored the goal, but everything he was doing was right, like you were saying. But there was just really everybody was playing so well that there was no threat from Wolves. You could have had people, any number of people, be man of the match, really. But Kwanzaa did kind of stand out, and so he's mine as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so what we'd like to do with what we're going to give Jurgen his due now. I mean, this guy deserves it. Um, we're it's just the rest of the time we have here on Kopites Calling today. We're going to just talk about what Jurgen has meant, what Jurgen is, who he is. I think people who saw him at the end of the game and heard him talking saw what this manager is. And that's a guy who, for me, he um, he was his demeanor, his humor, his his love of people, and that includes his players. It was all on display during that speech he had today. It was incredible. So many words I could use. I was. It was. I don't know. I mean, that guy for me. I have been all week, Nik, reading some tributes from players, and Trent Alexander-Arnold said there was one from Trent saying if Jurgen told me it was snowing, even if it wasn't, I'd believe him. That's the kind of guy that he is. It was all there. You could see it. Um, the
And
fans.
yeah,
Oh,
I mean, I was going to say the fans were incredible.
I mean, and not only does he handle himself with grace, with everything that we know this manager to be, he led the first Arne Slot chant. And that to me was and just a moment that's just going to stand out for me.
It really sums him up. Like, he is the only person, and he made that day, or today, excuse me, in his speech, not about himself. And that's how Jurgen Klopp is as a person. He didn't make today about him. He made it about Liverpool Football Club today and moving forward without him. He could have sulked it all in and been a little selfish and all this. He starts a chant for the new manager. I mean, I don't know if
Who
there's a
does that?
better. Yeah, I don't know if there's a better way to describe Jurgen Klopp in that clip right there. I mean, he starts the first ever chant for Arne Slot in Anfield. I mean, he one of his lines in the speech is that this is not the end, this is a beginning. Or he's thinking about because he's talking about how good the players played today. That the manager comes in and has this to work with. I mean, he is the most selfless person I've seen work in football. You think about some of the likes of the other managers out there, and I can't name one that I think is like he's a one in a million. And
That's
it's
beautiful. you said the word selfless, Nick, and that is beautiful. I mean, that is, pardon us here at Kopites Calling if we're gushing a little bit, but I think we
You
have
will.
the
Who
right.
cares?
I
It's been
think we
9 years
have
with
the
this guy.
right to gush at this particular situation. The man came in, and the time he came in, everybody was Jose Mourinho, the special one, and he made a little just he kind of made fun of himself a little bit and used the term that, well, if he's the special one, I'm coming in as the normal one. And that's what this guy is. We had him as Liverpool had the good fortune of having this guy for 8 years and 7 months, not quite 9 years.
I'm giving it to
I'm
him.
just yeah, I'm just gonna throw this out there, Nick. I'm gonna just bombard you with some stats right now because I just think it's worth it. We have to do this. 491 games, 299 wins, 1,030 goals. He won 8 trophies. He won the 18-19 Champions League, the 2019 Super Cup, the 2019 Club World Cup, the 1920 Premier League, the 21-22 Carabao Cup, the 21-22 FA Cup, the 22 Community Shield, and the 23-24 Carabao Cup. He won the first Premier League for the team in 30 years, the first Champions and European Super Cup in 14 years, the first FA Cup and Community Shield in 16 years, the first Carabao Cup in 10 years, and the first Club World Cup in the club's history. I,
You know,
think about
I'm going
it.
to hit you with another crazy stat. Do you know the only other Premier League manager to manage to win both the Premier League and the Champions League? There's only two other managers that have done that: Sir Alex Ferguson and Pep Guardiola. So for anyone to discredit what this guy has done for this football club, those two guys, Pep and Sir Alex, were at clubs that had unlimited funds in Manchester United and Man City, and we didn't. What Klopp did with the resources he had, because look, this isn't the bash FSG pod right now. We're talking about Klopp, but what he did with the money, yeah, but there was money there sometimes. There was other times where money wasn't there, and he trusted his players, instilled a culture, and I mean, what really broke me today is seeing the hug between him and Virgil. I mean,
Oh, oh,
I just about needed the box of tissues right there. I mean, Virgil van Dijk, the players that he brought in, and them being bought in from day one, and what he did to them, he helped them achieve their dreams in their careers. Virgil van Dijk, you know, he didn't. He had options. He could have went to City. City was in there for him as well, but he chose to go to Liverpool instead. A team that, at the time when he came in, we weren't what we are now. Excuse me. And it's just because you have a manager like Klopp that it's hard to say no to.
I 100% agree with you, Nick. I mean, you could see when they gave him the guard of honor, and how classy was it that all his coaching staff went through the guard of honor too. That was incredible. Um, to see him go through that, the players that he's had the longest, I mean, obviously you had some of the players that nobody wants to see this man leave, but you could see it. It really hit Virgil. It really hit Mo. Robbo was
Trent,
holding on, and it really hit Trent. And
Trent
those
too.
are the guys. Those are the guys that have been with him the longest. 17 and 18 is when these guys came in, and he had Trent. If you think back, this I'm gonna this is gonna blow your mind. Trent is 25 years. He's 25 years old right now.
It's
Okay,
insane. He's in his prime right now, which
20,
is crazy to
25.
think.
So Jurgen's been there for almost 9 years. So that would mean that Trent was 16 when Jurgen came in. 16. And look at what he did for that guy. I mean,
it gave belief in him, and now he's the best right back in the world. I mean, it's insane.
For me, when Jurgen Klopp came in, he said he was going to play heavy metal football. He revolutionized the game. He was, to me, having your fullbacks up in, I mean, what he did with Robertson and what he did with Trent, having those guys, they were, you didn't see teams have defenders who were this much of an offensive presence. That was unheard of.
I mean, you think back to the 18-19 season and the 19-20 season where we won the Prem. I mean, Trent and Robbo were having competitions to see who could get more assists in the league. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? We're talking about positions that are defensive-minded positions, but Klopp gave them the free will to express themselves in the attacking third and turn them. I mean, Andy Robertson was a $7 million signing from Hull City. Trent came through the academy, and he's turned them into two of the best outside, wing backs in the world. And it's just, and the way Trent plays now, even more so, he perfected his craft. I mean, Trent's one of the best, not only right backs in the world, he's one of the best players I've ever watched, Trent, because of the way he plays the game. And again, that comes down to the belief that Klopp gave him.
I was, again, when we were talking about, I was talking with Nick, we were deciding how we were going to approach this, and we just decided, hey, man, we're going to go with this tribute to Klopp. He made, during his tenure at the club, not all of his signings worked out. For me, unfortunately, I just have to kind of say the worst signing that he had was Loris Karius, who was a goalkeeper. He was brought in. I was expecting it. What was the club he was at prior to that, Nicholas?
It was
It was a German team. Yeah.
Bundesliga. Was it Union Berlin, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I really thought this guy might.
It was Hoffenheim. It was Hoffenheim.
Okay. I really thought he might be the answer. And I kind of even thought, well, the style of play is different in the Bundesliga than it is in the Prem. It's going to take him a while. But he, to me, was the worst signing that Jurgen had. Of players that actually played a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't forget that the Champions League Real Madrid game, that's kind of really all on him.
The funny thing is, I mean, if we go back to Klopp, and after that game, Klopp immediately defending him.
Absolutely.
That goes again, shows Klopp being Klopp.
Well, I made the comment that in all the time that he was with this club, I don't remember him ever throwing a player under the bus. Not one time. Not one time. He defended his players. He stood up for his players. Other managers aren't quite that kind, I guess is the right word. For me, I think, and even Klopp said, the three signings that put him over the top, I'm going to have to go with 4 because I don't know how you have this without saying Andy Robertson's one of the ones that was a signing that was, like you said, $7 million steal from Hull City. When he was signed, I'm sitting there going, yeah, what's he doing? This Hull City's been relegated. What is he doing? Well, he's doing a lot under Klopp that Klopp saw and we didn't. But the 3 signings that turned this team around, Alisson Becker as a goalkeeper we took from AS Roma. Got him in 2018. He's been nothing but, for me, the best goalkeeper in the world. We got Virgil van Dijk. We brought him in 2018 from Southampton. And I guess you could arguably, I don't know who I'm going to argue with, he's the best defender of his generation, I think. I think he's the best defender I've seen.
Couldn't agree more.
And the other person that really turned Liverpool into champions was Mohamed Salah. We brought him over from AS Roma as well, and we brought him over in 2017. He has probably been the best player in the Klopp era.
I mean, it's just insane to think the consistency that Mohamed Salah plays with every year. I mean, this is a guy that, you know, when we bought him for 35 million, I mean, at the time, again, people were wondering what was Klopp doing with this guy. You know, he was a guy that was at Chelsea that didn't make it at Chelsea, so he took his football to Italy with, you know, Fiorentina and then Roma, and here he comes back to England with Liverpool and has one of the, you know, his first season has one of the most historic seasons in the Prem, and then he just continues to build off of that. I mean, he is one of the greatest Premier League wingers that I've ever seen, and I think he deserves to be top 10 Premier League players of all time. I mean, the guy, I mean, I hope he does. We'll see what happens in the summer. Who knows? You know, with Saudi looming, I think he wants to stay. I think everyone wants him to stay, and I think he will stay under Arne Slot because you need those veteran guys. But Mo is just, you know, one of the best players in the world, and Van Dijk as well, one of the best center backs I think you could ever say and play the game. I mean, these three guys that you just talked about, Allison as well. I mean, they took us from, you know, a Liverpool team that had good players but not a cohesive unit of players, and made them a team, right? You know, the backbone of your goalkeeper and your center back with Van Dijk and Allison, and then to have the goals come as well with that with Mo, it created something different.
You build your team. I think that, and anybody would agree if you're a soccer head, you build your team from defense out. Getting Allison Becker in place and then having Virgil van Dijk in front of him, who takes a lot of pressure off of Allison because of what his field presence is. So you got those two guys in place, and then you could kind of start looking at, and then you got Robertson, who was a signing that was a steal, and that guy, it's just those we have. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't. There were other signings that I thought really pushed this team, and I want to mention a couple of the players, and I think you would agree with me that, you know, we really kind of need to talk about Diogo Jota. Diogo Jota was another person. He was probably correct. See if you agree with me on this, Nick. I think he was Liverpool's best attacker behind Mo.
Under Klopp?
Under Klopp.
I'm
talking about, okay. I think, and Mane's on my. I think we need to talk about Sadio Mane as well. Fantastic player. That guy just scores goal. I think that the reason I would say Jota a little bit more over Mane is because I think Jota was just you could see it in some of the games he played this year. He was a pit bull going for the goal.
Yeah, I mean, Jota's a gunman, right? He's a guy.
Yeah,
that, anytime he has the ball in and around the box, his first instinct is I'm taking a touch and I'm shooting, or I'm hitting this first time. You know what I mean? He is eyes only locked on goal, and I can agree that, you know, whenever we signed him from Wolves, which was another weird, I guess you could say, signing, you know, Diogo Jota from Wolverhampton, 60 million, you know, a lot of people were wondering. But again, he came in and proved to everyone why Klopp wanted him. And, you know, the guy, to your point, is a natural born finisher. Personally, again, this is why we have this podcast. Personally, I mean, Mane's for me, what I would say in terms of attacking wise. I mean, Mane came in, and you think about what Mane did some of those seasons. I mean, he was similar. I mean, when you think about the front three that we used to have, right? But you think about, when I say wingers, again, in world football, there was a time that Mo and Mane were going beat for beat as the best wingers in world football.
Absolutely. And I totally hear what you're saying. I think that those two guys are, you know, that's why I threw it out there, Nick, as saying arguably. I just think that we talk about certain players that just have that nose. Jota was a player. He didn't care how he scored.
Yeah.
He didn't care how he scored. And he's not a big guy. How many times was he going up and getting headers and just ripping headers? I mean, this guy. So anyway, I agree. I think both of those guys really kind of pushed the Klopp teams to what they became. I think we do need to mention there's a couple other players I do want to quickly mention. Um, I think we can't really have this conversation without saying Jorginho Wijnaldum. For me, Genie, really an underrated player. He was, again, I think you used the word servant. He was a servant for the team. I think he really kind of stood out in the Klopp era. I really do. Um, I think we have to kind of mention Fabinho, and Fabinho under Klopp became one of the best defensive midfielders in the world.
Yeah, those two guys. I'm going to touch, because we can talk about and reminisce about obviously best moments under Klopp, but has there ever been a better substitution than Wijnaldum coming on against Barcelona in the second leg at Anfield? I mean, what Wijnaldum did when he came onto that field in the second half, it's just two goals. I mean, one of the greatest subs ever. And Wijnaldum was a guy that was always there. He was. And
Always.
how many times have me and you talked before we were doing Kopites Calling, Dave, that was a guy that I knew we were going to have trouble replacing because he was always a guy that was there. And Fabinho, it's a shame that Fabinho played in the Premier League at the same time as Rodri because Rodri is still going for Man City. But I mean, Fabinho at times was just a colossus up at defensive mid. So yeah, I think that those two players do definitely deserve a shout out as well.
I don't know how we go any further to not say Jordan Henderson as well. I think Jordan Henderson really served his time with Klopp very. The biggest issue that Jordan Henderson had was he came in right after Steven Gerrard retired. He had I know we've watched a number of games, Nick, and I know we've kind of gotten on Hendo, but that guy would play any position that he put him in. There was times in the injury riddled season.
Yeah.
What was that?
2020, 2021.
Yeah.
The COVID season.
Yeah, the injury riddled season where we were he was playing defense for us. I think Jordan Henderson, he gets very maligned by a lot of people. Um, I think the worst thing you could say about him was he came in after Steven Gerrard retired.
Yeah, no, I mean, couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that he was a servant to Liverpool. I think the way he left still kind of has a weird taste in my mouth.
I don't like that so much.
He did kind of say stuff about the club. But again, whatever. Sometimes that stuff is. Sometimes players do that because their agents make them go out in the media and say stuff like that. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there because I do think that Henderson, especially in the season that we won the Prem, 2019-20, excuse me, he was up there being voted for PFA Player of the Year. That was one of his best seasons for us.
Yeah.
As long as we're naming players that didn't come in under Klopp, there's one that has to be named in my favorite player under the way he played in the Klopp era. My favorite player to watch. I'm thinking, who I'm going to say it's Roberto Firmino or Bobby Firmino.
We can't have this podcast and not talk about Bobby, right?
I mean, he didn't come in under Klopp. He came in under Brendan. He was a Brendan Rodgers signing, but he feels like a Klopp signing. What Klopp did with him was take a guy that his natural position was a 10 attacking mid when we signed him from Hoffenheim, the Bundesliga, and Klopp said, "Hey, I'm going to turn you into the best false forward that we've ever seen." And why Klopp decided to do that? Because he's Brazilian. Because Bobby has that Brazilian blood. He knows how to string plays together, come back and help. Has that flair. And the other reason is I'm going to bring you back in a false nine position because we have two of the quickest wingers in world football with Mo and Mane that can run in behind and score off of you. I mean, it was brilliant management what Jurgen Klopp did with Roberto Firmino. And there's times whenever Bobby wouldn't be playing that I think Klopp was like begging to find someone that could do the job he could do. I think today, even, I think he tried Gakpo there last season as a false nine. It didn't really work. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no one that can do what Bobby did in the false nine position. I don't think we'll ever see someone like that again. I mean, Messi plays a false nine technically, but Messi's on a different planet. I'm talking about soccer now. I mean, books can be written about how Roberto Firmino played that role. I mean, it was insane.
Absolutely. And I think we have to kind of be honest here, Nick, and say all of these players that we're talking about, their games stepped up because of the brilliance of Jurgen Klopp and how he was able to manage all the different types of scorers. You had Bobby, you had Mo, you had Mane, you had Jota. We brought in Luis Diaz. I mean, all special player still there. We had all and his man management of all of this and all of these guys working together to for a common goal. You know what I mean? I mean, there was none of the there was none of this um I don't know.
Animosity. There was never
Yeah,
there was never a bad blood in the
there was,
dressing room. I
yeah,
mean, there was
yeah,
never a sense of. I mean, yeah, players got frustrated on the pitch, but
yeah,
it's not soccer being soccer. But you
yeah.
can tell how much these players throughout the Klopp era, those that stayed, those that left, those
They
that
bought
are
in.
here, they bought in. They still buy in because if you interview any player that played under Klopp, even the ones that you talk about Takumi Minamino, right? Probably didn't
Yeah,
get the minutes he thought he deserved at Liverpool. But since he's made his move to Monaco, I mean, this is a guy, Minamino, that played a huge role in us winning the Carabao Cup and FA Cup in 21-22
yes,
because he was available that season. He was the cult
yes,
hero of that season in those competitions. I think since he's moved to Monaco, and this is a guy that was at Liverpool for what, 3 years? Since
yeah,
he's moved to Monaco, he has not said a single bad word about his time at Liverpool. And that's one to name of a few. I mean, any player that had the opportunity or didn't have the opportunity, but was in and around the dressing room, liked going to work every day because they got
yes,
to play with that man.
yes, yes, absolutely. You mentioned it, Nick. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to kind of drill in on this for a quick minute because I think it's worth it. We weren't doing Kopites Calling in 2019. I do want to discuss this game. Klopp has even said this was one of the greatest games he was involved in, and that is the May 7th, 2019 Liverpool Barcelona second leg. And it is the greatest ever Champions League comeback. Barcelona had humbled Liverpool at the Camp Nou. It was 3-0. They made us look kind of bad. It was really humbling. We were going into this game. Think about this, Nick. We're playing against, I'm getting a little worked up here. We're playing against the likes of Messi, Suarez, Piqué, Busquets, former Liverpool player Felipe Coutinho. We're playing against these guys. We didn't have Mo. We didn't have Bobby, both out for injuries. We had Divock Origi and Xherdan Shaqiri, as our attackers um,
Mane.
with Mane. Yeah, that's what we had. That's what we threw out there. Um, we we made a sub. It was 3-0. So we had to score 4 goals. This was the aggregate scoring. We had to score 4 goals. We made. You mentioned it. We brought in Wijnaldum, and in the Origi opened the scoring in the 7th minute, and we get that 1 goal back, and then when Wijnaldum is subbed in for Robbo, he scores. It's 2-0. In the 56th minute, Genie scores again on a header to tie it 3-3, and then and this is Klopp. I watched an interview yesterday. Klopp said he did not see this play. Trent Alexander-Arnold taking a corner. He took a corner and he took it before Barca was sleeping. Is all that happened. All I could actually say. They weren't.
Genius.
Huh?
Just genius.
Yeah.
Just genius. Just genius.
And Barca was sleeping, and Origi scores again. Cult hero for Liverpool from now on. Divock Origi scoring that goal. Klopp said he had his back to the play. He was thinking of what substitution he was looking at, the substitution he was going to make, and this happens, and it's 4-3. Liverpool has stunned Barca, and we went on to win the Champions League that year.
I mean, and then you think about the end of the game scenes with the "You'll Never Walk Alone" with they're all
Oh,
arms together. They did that again
oh,
today on his last
oh,
scene. I mean, you think about just the passion of the club and how much just, and that's one of the few results to name it, under him that you can think of memories, right? You think about the Everton winner where he ran onto the pitch and jumped into Allison's arms. You think about, dismantling United at Anfield last year 7-0. Dismantling United at United in 21-22 season where Mo hit the hat trick. I mean, you think about these games. I mean, the crazy, games against Man City that were always back and forth. I mean, Klopp's the only guy not named Pep Guardiola to win the Premier League in 7 years. I mean,
right.
this is a guy that went against the grain, and I mean, there's many other results you can think, games you can think about, and it's just the thing that I can think that accompanies what Klopp is the most is that how many times after seasons, Dave, where we were 1 point short, 2 points short, you think about, when City was up 2-0, or when Villa was up 2-0 against City at the Etihad, and we thought we were going to win the league, and then how many times though after those heartbreaking moments, the Champions League finals, the 2 Champions League finals to Real Madrid that we lost, how many times was Klopp interviewed after the fact that, happens, we go again. He just says we go again. We go again. That's life, that's football, we go again. He never, ever thought about the past. He only thought about what he could do moving forward. And I think the players resonated with that because there's no one else that does that. He's like, we go again. It's okay. We'll go, we'll regroup and we'll go again. And yeah, you can make the argument 100% that Klopp should we have one more? Absolutely, we should have won more. You think about the results that could have tipped the scales in certain seasons, and yeah, you think that we should have potentially won more under Klopp. But there's no one else that can do what he did for Liverpool. From doubters to believers. From doubters to believers. I mean, this guy came into a club that, no offense to Brendan Rodgers, he kind of left it in a place that was not worth of taking. It wasn't the Liverpool job that everyone thought it was going to be whenever Brendan Rodgers left. But he took a chance, and I don't know. It's heartbreaking. I mean, you think about the scenes today, the speech, the players holding back their tears. I mean, it's still not real, but it is real.
There were a few things in the Klopp era I just that stand out to me as some of the classic comments that he made, and I'll never forget this one, Nick. I'm sure you're going to be right there with me. 2016 when we beat Man City 3-0. And Jurgen said, the best word I can use to describe this is boom. That was classic Jurgen Klopp right there. He actually made the comment, this is a very, very special club. He didn't make the fans believe. He said, I just reminded them that it helps when you believe. The scenes, Nick, the bus ride after, this stands out in my head too. If this isn't a manager you want to play for, I don't know who it is. The bus, when we had the bus for the Champions League parade, and Jurgen is hanging off the back with a beer in his hand. Dude, that's what it is for me. This is the guy, right?
I'll never forget. Yeah, he had his backwards hat on. I know exactly what you're talking about. After think about the moments after the Champions League final. The scenes where him and think about the picture with him and Henderson crying after the Champions League final. You think about the funny clip that came out in the dressing room when he's hitting back to the dressing room after the Champions League final. He goes, "Where are the drinks?" That's what Klopp said. Was, "Where are the drinks?" I mean, you think about. I mean, this guy was. He was just a guy that I don't know. And even at our worst times, I still never wanted to doubt him. I mean, yeah, I mean, of course I'm a fan, so we act on instinct, but you know, he can even say one of the greatest accomplishments that he's had was the injury riddled season of COVID-19. 2020-21 season where players either had injured, they had COVID, whatever. I mean, we had Reese Williams and Nathaniel Phillips as our center backs, and we somehow secure Champions League. We secure Champions League because Allison Becker scores the header against West Brom. I mean, these things are just
Yes.
he
Yes.
made the team. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said. He made these players enjoy their football more than they would ever have thought they could enjoy it. You know what I mean? It's and I think that I'm going to give credit. I think that we have a diamond in the rough with this Arne Slot as well. I mean, we can talk about Slot more whenever we have our episodes in the summer, because I'm sure
Yep.
we'll
We
talk
will.
about him and what what transfers he's looking at and whatnot. But I think we have a guy that's coming in that isn't Klopp, and I don't think he wants to be recognized as Klopp, and it is a tough job to come into. But I think we have a guy here in our nice slot. It's an against the grain signing that Liverpool tends to make right. But today's about Klopp, and I mean the fist bumps to the crowd you're going to miss. I mean, he wanted all his assistant coaches in the celebrations as well. I mean, he's hugging everybody. I mean, he's hugging the stewards. He's hugging. I mean, he made everyone from the stewards to the laundrymen to the kit man to the cooks. I mean, he's just a guy that I would want to. He'd tell me to go jump off a bridge. I'm doing it.
The images that I will, Nick, you played. I didn't play soccer. I mean, I played football. I didn't play soccer. American football. To come off the pitch and have a guy hug you. And it was heartfelt. He wasn't just doing this. It was heartfelt. And to have that happen, and we've talked about it before, would you want to play for a guy like that? The answer is hell yes, you would. Absolutely 100% you would want to play for a manager like that. You would want to give your all to a manager like that. You would want to do anything for him. And I think his players did that. I think throughout his time there, his players did that. We're going over time a little bit. I don't care. We're gonna talk a little bit more about this guy because I think he deserves it. I think his time can't be just summed up like this. But that's the guy I want to. That's the guy I want to play for. That's the guy that I mean, we've said before, if he told me as a fan to run through a brick wall, I'd try to figure out a way to do it. I'd try to figure out a way to run through a brick wall. Because did you see? We have to say this, Nick. Man City is winning, or before the game today, City and Arsenal were battling it out to see who was actually going to win the Premier League. They showed split screen on a couple feeds that I saw. They showed the buses going to the game, the bus going to the Man City game. There were a few Man City fans out. The buses going to Anfield, there were throngs of people. There was crowds of people because of Jurgen. I saw something, Nick. Sky Sports said 60% of the viewers after the game were watching Klopp's farewell and not City's coronation as Premier League winners. Think about that.
I mean,
that's all because of him.
And even then, both were live on YouTube, and I saw this on Twitter. Both were live on YouTube. Again, Klopp's ceremony had more viewers than City's trophy lift on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show you that the casual viewer sided with Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. It's easy to be a City fan because you're winning a lot. Absolutely. I would love to be in their shoes to win a lot. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, football became a people's game because of Jurgen Klopp.
Absolutely.
It became a people's game, and people resonated with him. They resonated with him more. That's not discrediting what Pep's done. That's not discrediting what any other manager in Prem has done. But people resonated with Jurgen Klopp.
He brought it back to the fans. The fans felt like they were part of this club. They felt like they were involved in everything and that's because of the way he carried himself. Steven Gerrard himself said, if there's not a statue on the way, there needs to be a statue. He needs to be included. Are we now going to say on the Allay, are we going to say, are we going to put Jurgen's name in there along with Bill Shankly and Bob Paisley? I think we need to. We need to figure out a way to get his name in there because that's what he's meant to this club. That's what he's done. He is, I mean, there's no other way. The song says it. We're so glad that Jurgen is a Red. He actually delivered what he said. I mean, he did.
Yeah. It's going to take me some time.
The words that come out, I mean, the words that come out for me, I'm one of you now. I think Jurgen's always been one of us.
Yep.
I think he's a manager that was a fan, that saw these players, that took these players to the heights. I've always felt that he was one of us. That's why I think that he had this bond with the fans. The signs were all over the pitch today. Thanks, boss. And that's really what it is.
Yeah, the guy, I don't know. I mean, can't say anything. I mean, the guy. What else can we hit on that we haven't hit on in an hour now? I mean,
yeah.
It's gonna be weird, but Liverpool Football Club now has a way forward, and I think that we grew up with. In a sense, I mean, I feel like I grew up with him, right? I mean, yeah,
right.
I mean, it's one of those things where, not much else I can say.
He left the team in better shape than when he took it over. What else do you want in a career than to do that? He left the team. I'm going to argue and say he really is not the normal one. He was special. He was special. He was a generational coach. There might be other coaches like that, but there's only one Jurgen Klopp, and we had him. We had the joy of seeing him. His smile. I mean, hey, I'm a fanboy right now. His smile, just, I don't know. It's going to take me a little bit of time to kind of come to terms. I am all behind Arne Slot. I agree with you, Nik. I'm going to be there for him. I'm going to be, everything I have, I'm going to put into Arne Slot. But Jurgen Klopp. Thanks, boss. That's it.
That's it.
All right. Well, us here, Nik and Dave here at Kopites Calling. As always, you'll never walk alone. And as Jurgen says, I will never walk alone again.